All right, it is time to resume the technical breakdown of Dram 3. We are on to World 2. I think this is one of the less complicated worlds to explain. The most complicated level will probably be the rhythm game level, but the rest are going to be hopefully not too bad. I don't want to spend 4 hours on 4 levels. So we'll see. We're in big yap time though. After the hard RNG castle, we get prompted with a nice and relaxing Dolphin Fish and Boo level, which actually is, I think, nice and relaxing. Most people that played it seemed to think it was one of the easier levels, which I guess was kind of my intention because of the fact that we have this guy right here, Mr. Fish and Boo. He's a very intriguing character. He's also a staple because this guy is he's a menace in Kaizo 1. But we had to bring him back because in Dram 1 and Dram 2, he was there. But we have some slight modifications to this guy. So in vanilla S&W, he will do this. He'll hit you with the 180 flick shot. And there's a lot of strats in terms of trying to manipulate his movement a little, because you can do that with making sure he doesn't actually hit you with a flick shot when you're not trying to do that. But I gave you the option to either do that one or just make him continuously face right, because some people don't like dealing with the Fish and Boo. But some people like vanilla Fish and Boo movement. And if you like vanilla Fish and Boo movement, oh, whoops, sped it up. Then you can do it if you want. And the level is possible in both ways, but I will do one way because it's easier for me. And I mean, this message box just basically explains what I just said. You can change the direction mid-level if you want. I don't see a reason why you'd want to do that. And actually, the first section here, I'm hoping I can just stand here so he doesn't kill me. The first section only has a Fish and Boo at the very end of the level, and that's why I placed this room first, so that you can set up the movement beforehand and know how his movement will be, because some hacks might keep this movement as vanilla where it doesn't have the 180 flick shot. But the reason this room exists is because of the ending of room 1. With room 2, it's all about the Fish and Boo, right? But room 1's all about the dolphins. But it's nice because some people might forget that there's even a Fish and Boo as they do the first one, and then they get like to the obstacle for the first time and it surprises them. We get the element of surprise. And then we have room 2, which is really the tutorial room. This one, I will only put a tutorial room if necessary to demonstrate either mechanic or like a graphical thing that players aren't able to learn on the fly. If you're able to learn about the level mechanics while you play the level, then I won't put a tutorial room. Kind of like with the Rexes of level 1, you know how there's different colored Rexes and they do different things. But you can learn what they do as you play the level, and you don't have to, like, you know, die first to see what they do. One example is the very first jump of level 1. If you go back, you can see that the red Rex, what its abilities is as you are doing the level, because you don't actually use the red Rex until the next obstacle. So it's kind of like that, but I was able to almost convey everything here. The tough one was I guess also to convey that this water is death water. It used to be spiked off entirely. I actually don't know why this spike is right here. I think I just forgot to take it out, but it is also configured that if you touch the water, you will die. So that's another reason. But as you can tell, the blue dolphin, it's got it's got boos surrounding it, various different amounts and speeds. The yellow dolphin moves exactly opposite every other dolphin, so it goes down then up instead of up and down. Here you see the red dolphin explodes. It gives you enough time to kind of jump off of it and see that's flashing. And this dolphin is the only reason this tutorial room exists, because you cannot jump off of it. And I know people, if they were to get to the obstacle for the first time, they would try to jump and then they might die. So here, if you try to do that, at least you're in a tutorial room. And the setup here is to force you so that you can, or you have to use these blocks to get off. Although apparently you can't just make this jump without using it. It's like possible. Which I probably should have maybe made sure is impossible so that you're forced to use it, so you know exactly how to do this obstacle. Because I think I saw one person dodge and then it got to this obstacle and they didn't know what to do because they accidentally cheesed it. But then they got it pretty fast, but that was a little unexpected on my part. So yeah, there are the 4 dolphins, the 4 different colors. And in terms of the level itself, it's probably not too much to talk about technically. Here you kind of see, like, pretend you never saw the tutorial room. This is what I mean by, like, you learn as you do the level. As you're doing this dolphin, you can see that the yellow dolphin goes up and down, so that already gives you an idea of what that dolphin is. Start of the level, you already see that, I mean, the dolphin works exactly how a dolphin would, it's just surrounded by boos, so there's not much terms of learning. And then you get to the red dolphin. I mean, even if you stall, you'll live, but then as you jump across, you'll be like, oh, it exploded. So that's what I mean by, like, having the level teach you as you play instead of being in the tutorial room. And that's why I went blue, yellow, red at first, because I designed this before having a tutorial room. So that's why it's like that. But it's also a nice refresher so you can remember exactly what each colored dolphin does. Small little thing about this. Doesn't really matter, but if the sprite that is surrounding the boos is, because these boos are kind of a separate sprite. If the original sprite, which is the dolphin, you can actually, there's like a circle sprite someone made where you can surround any sprite with these boos. I just chose dolphins for the theme of this, but the moment that actually despawns, the boos will despawn. So when this dolphin despawns, the boos are gone. So I could have lowered the dolphin despawn radius and make the boos actually on screen until not, but I just decided to leave it so you can see them despawn. It actually makes the obstacle easier, so I was just like, whatever. And then we got the classic stall section here. This camera can't scroll until this guy falls down. I'm not going to talk too in depth about the camera setups because most of them are pretty much the same now. You've probably seen every camera setup, but invisible block above the, or up here that touches, when this scoop touches it, it'll just let the camera scroll. And here's where I was like, people might try to jump, right, like right here to get the, oh, let me show my inputs actually. Yeah, they might try to jump, and as a result they'll like die, but that's why that tutorial room exists. Honestly, you can probably learn it pretty fast, but it's better to have the tutorial room than not. Honestly. And then one small thing I had to do with the getting pushed off a ceiling is originally, so these are 2 different blocks, but if you try to get pushed off near the middle, like pretend these are 2 actual blocks, right? If you try to get pushed, or not off the middle, if you try to get pushed off, like, let's say for example the left side here, what might happen is, as you're holding right, because right, you want to hold right to get speed, you could actually get blocked from the side of this block as you're holding right. Because you're kind of inside the block here, right? So the game thinks you're inside the block and you're actually touching this block, you lose all your momentum trying to get to the right. So what I had to do is make these kind of custom blocks. Well, technically they're one-way gates. They're one-way down gates. They're just retextured to look like this. So that way it doesn't have any side collision. So that way you can touch the side of the one-way and it won't matter, right? It only checks for your up and down collision, your vertical collision. So it doesn't matter how fast or where you are going upwards here, you will always have your momentum with you, so you won't actually get it blocked by James. So that's something we had to make sure was not a problem for players. Nothing here worth talking about. I mean, you can see that this dolphin has more boos now. These are all extended sprites. I think that's what they are. I could be wrong, but extended sprites let you have a lot more sprites on screen, because the most you can have a regular sprites are 12, and it starts to lag around like 8 or 9. But extended sprites you can have up to 20, because they have a lot less processing to do. So here there's what, 7 boos? So yeah, you can have 20 if you wanted to, but that would be the max. We'll get more into that in or cluster sprites. I think these are cluster sprites, not extended. They're kind of similar. There's like different types of sprites. I don't know too much about the details, but the thing to know about them is they let you have more of them on screen without the game lagging, so they're nice. Nothing here really. One of these fire bars, these helper fire bars, to direct you to the right way, because some people might try to hit the on-off and go straight to the bat, which is not the intended way. So if you're doing the right movement, this should never actually hit you. Here it's even like not also an obstacle. You can see like it's off a spot where you can't even hit it as you're going to the next obstacle. Speaking of sprites, yeah, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9. And the game isn't lagging yet. So shoutouts to extended sprites, because this will be 3 more, which would be 12. The game would definitely be lagging at this point. But these are here to kind of help guide you the right movement. Because there's a lot going on in this part, but especially with trying to time when you're getting around the triangle of boos. I have a few sprites to help you in the right direction here. So you see 3 spikes falling, you're like, all right, I need to go to the left. Or not necessarily like so far left, but you know, some people might try to go this way and then they realize that it's not a great angle to get back. Because that's why you want to go left, so you have the angle back towards this way as these boos are going clockwise. So these obstacles are like, they're not obstacles, but they are at the same time. I don't think they call them like helper obstacles, because they're just to help you understand what to go or what to do rather than actually like make the obstacle itself harder. That's basically how I use fire bars in general. Even in Mario Maker, think about a fire bar is for that exact reason. It's just to help you convey what I want you to do rather than make an obstacle harder. Here it's just to make sure you one cycle everything, because I think if you try to, because once you hit the on off, that activates the camera, which makes it kind of awkward with trying to set up how I want the camera to move. So this is just to make you do in one cycle, so I can't tie cheese in the way. More stalling, yay! We love stalling. I mean, I love stalling. Apparently, stalling's great. As long as you see, well, I guess you can't really see with all this in the way, but same setup, right? Koopa falling on the invisible block, camera starts scrolling. Well, like I said, I'm very big on being able to see what you need to stall for is on screen. That's why we have all that fake water up top, so that the Koopa can fall slowly. You can see that it's falling. Here's that tech I'm talking about where you can go through the dolphin. So if you want, you could just spin jump through the dolphin. Or, I mean, the other way is actually just to go around it. Now you can do that for style if you want, otherwise just move out of the way. So here we have another offsetting sprite setup. I think I spawned it already. Well, I guess we can look at the sprite slots. So the saw is in slot 9. This dolphin is in slot 8. So to make sure that the saw's position when you get to the dolphin is always going to be the exact same. So for example, when the saw is here, this dolphin will always be here. So it'll always be... you always have to do a spin jump like to the side, because this dolphin you cannot land on. Well, technically, if you like rub against this wall and touch it, you can land on it. But I mean, trying to touch this wall from the side is a little difficult, and honestly, it's harder at that point. But if you look in Lunar Magic here, with the good old X's, actually a lot. I know we talked about spawning last video, but half of these are the sprite offsetters where they spawn a sprite at a different position. But you can see the amount of times where, well, that's an invisible block. Hold on. Half the time you can see that all these X's are on the same X position, so they all, or yeah, same X position, so they spawn at the exact same time. There's a lot of them. They're everywhere. And if we look here, this is the saw, this is the dolphin, this dolphin. And this one is actually the dolphin all the way over here. So it makes all three of these sprites positioned in the exact same spot every single time. So there's no spawning manipulation that the player has to do. No, I named the dolphin. No, the dolphins don't have names. So we go back. You can see that this dolphin here... Well, I guess I died. Let me get back there. So these two dolphins will always be pretty much the same. That's how I get this setup to line up nice, very nicely, with the landing on it and spin and off of it. And here's another example of I'll try to spawn a sprite as you're trying to go over munchers because you have to hold right, so it makes the consistent timing or timing for variance smaller for spawning. So this dolphin is in slot 8. You can see when slot 8 spawns, right in the middle of the munchers. That's like a neat little trick that you could consider as a level maker for spawning consistency. Just put like a muncher obstacle you need to get over, so you force to hold right, and then the spawning time can be less variant. Here you can either go left or you can one cycle it. The fish are also offset, so as I get here, you're gonna notice 3 sprites spawn at the exact same time. Actually, it might be more. I don't remember if I put the fish and boo same there. Yeah, there's 3 sprites. The 3 fish, man. In hindsight, I think I would have probably removed these fish. This is one of the trolls I probably didn't think was the greatest. But it hit people. I don't think you can actually make this at all. I don't even think the task makes this. So you're kind of forced to wait to dodge the fish, but... That's one of those where I'm like, eh. Actually, can you get around it? Maybe the task can, but... I mean, usually you just wait once. I also had to make the water here only interact with the dolphins, because before the last fish here would actually clip into the water and bounce up. So we had to make this another fake water where the water can only, or the dolphin can only interact with the water, and Mario just dies when he touches it. So a lot of custom blocks that are like reskinned, that to think that they're actually like, you know, water or cement blocks, but they have hidden purposes. This is on YouTube. Will this be on YouTube? Yes. Maybe tonight, who knows? And then with the muncher trick that I mentioned, the fish and boo should spawn. Yep, because you're forced to hold right here, so it's going to spawn right here. But spawn so you don't accidentally or spawn so far right where you don't accidentally spawn it, because that's why the fish are there too. They're positioned there so that you can, if you hear, you're already dead. So you gotta make sure you don't accidentally spawn the fish and boo. But then yeah, we have survive here. Well, I guess you can't really see the survive text, but it says survive. Before it didn't say survive, because people, if they get here without having the meter option on, because some people did play without having the meter option on, and this meter does, you know, work with the menu. So some people get here for the first time and they'd be like, there's just a giant wall. What do I do? Which goes back to the part where I say I want people to know when to, if they are in a survival section and for how long they have to. For the how long they have to, I guess if you turn off the bar, that's on you. You just don't like knowing the information, which is fine. But that's why the meters are helpful, because you get that information, not even in terms of survival, just knowing how long something lasts. But the survive text will at least let you know that it's a survival section. But I think most people play with the meter on anyways. That's the default option, just leave it on. So then they'll see that there's a meter on top of the fish or on top of the flame. So they're gonna know something's up when they finish surviving. And again, if you really want to, you can change it mid level. Honestly, the flick here might be easier for entering the door. I'm not trying to enter it right now. I'm just trying to show. So maybe the flick is easier. I don't know if anyone actually thought about it as if they get to this point, they'd be like, oh, what if I turn on vanilla fish and boo? Because then he'll actually like give me a chance. But I mean, I like to just do counterclockwise for moving around him. That way you can at least get into the door on the way down and up. Because if you do clockwise, Grim does clockwise. You'd have to like get it as you're going down only. But I guess personal preference. And then the last thing is, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the level, honestly. So this is the whole reason for the first room with the fish and boo. But this is timed so that you have to do 3 bounces up. The 4th bounce, I timed the door to appear just barely above when you're able to actually get it. So that way you have maximum time on this loop to know that a door has appeared and you're like, oh shoot, this is what I have to do to move on. So by the time the door spawns, they'll get to this point about right here where they have enough time to process that there's a door, and they've now reacted to the fact that this is what you need to do. So it gives you a chance to one cycle, even if you do it as a blind playthrough. Which actually, surprisingly, a lot of people one-shot this door. They didn't even get to see this fire bar. So here, I'm just going to miss her a few times. So the fire bar starts showing up after the first time you miss the door. And again, these are spawned at the same time, the fish and boo and the fire bar. And I made this extremely slow, so you have like literally like 10 tries maybe. How many do you have? 3, 4, 5. Yeah, like you have like 8 or 9 tries. I wanted to be lenient with this because this is one of these funny things where it's like, if you miss it, it's more... It's even funny for the player that misses it. But it's especially funny for the viewer, just seeing the intense buildup. That's why it's so extremely slow. And it's a little bit of, you get some anxiety. I remember watching Pooh, he was getting very anxious as soon as he saw this. It's the same idea with the Yoshi level. That Yoshi fire bar, the green Yoshi, green switch palace, that fire bar is also pretty slow. It's mainly just to build intensity, anxiety. Even though in hindsight you have a lot of time. Like you can miss many times. Well, it's not if you do that, but thankfully, at least some people missed the door. The window for actually getting into the door is it's a little lenient actually. You have let's count the frames here. You have like maybe a 4-frame window if you're over the door the entire time. Maybe even more if you get the door low enough. It's not like super precise, but it is pretty accurate to the hitbox. So you have to be relatively over the door. So the height of the door is really the amount of time you have, which is going to be at least 3 frames. So for example, 47, I can do 46, I can do 46. So 46 works. 48 works, so that's at least 3 frames. So you have like a 3 or 4 frame window. I don't know the exact amount, but it's not frame perfect. That would be awful if it was frame perfect. And you have to push up. You cannot hold it. Like if you, like in Mario Maker, you kind of just hold up into the door. This one you have to push up when you're inside the door. You can't just hold. You can't pre-hold it. This is a real detailed breakdown. Yes, if you missed the first 2 parts, I'd recommend it. We go in depth even more than what I'm doing right now. Was this the first hack to have these extensive settings? Kind of. There was a hack, what's it called? I think it was made by a Russian man. They made a hack with some settings, but I don't know if there's any Kaizo hacks that has this. I'm going to release a code. I'm almost done compiling it, but it's very hard-coded and awful to implement, so hopefully someone in the future makes a much more customizable version, because what I've made is very tailored to my needs, and it's... I wouldn't mess with the code. I don't even want to mess with the code. If I want to add another option, because I think what I want to do maybe in the future is I have LR dismount Yoshi. There's no option to turn that off, and it's probably because if I want to add another option in this menu, it's actually a pain in the balls, and I don't think having the option be a permanent thing is really gonna hurt a lot of people. So I was like, I'm just gonna have that just be a permanent thing for now. But I think in a future version, I do want to have maybe an option where it's like turn LR off or dismounting off Yoshi. But yeah, even adding one more option is just a pain. Your work in progress hack hat settings. Oh, nice. Well, hopefully yours will be less awful than what I had to do to make this, because this is... It works. That's all I can say, it works. It uses layer 3 status bar, so I can't have a full layer 3 background, but that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. Because I don't know how to make it with sprite tiles. That was way out of my league. So that's the only one of the downsides to this one. You cannot use the layer 3 full background. Anyways, so that's the first half. And then here you just spawn on top of the checkpoint. How nice, right? I figured the anxiety-inducing door was enough. But then here we have the cool Fish and Boo dolphin section. So the Dram staple is you gotta have a dolphin level and you gotta have a Fish and Boo level. But I didn't know how to make a Fish and... Let me play music. I didn't know how to make a Fish and Boo level be more than just dodge the flame and spin the pop its head. Like a full level of that, and only like the Fish and Boo, right? Because you do it here, but it's in combination with the dolphin, which is why this level exists. Because I was like, if I can't make a cool Fish and Boo level or a cool dolphin level, then I might not just put in the hack. But thankfully, I was able to combine it into one level, so the dolphins were cool, and now the Fish and Boo is cool. Well, I think it's cool. So with this one, the on-off will swap the dolphin into the Fish and Boo. I guess we're gonna have this RAM value. I think it's 14 AF. On-off. Let me see, is this correct? Yeah, so. Again, the switch doesn't happen until this value gets set to 1. And this value does not get set to 1 until 6 frames after you hit this. Is it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Something like that. Doesn't really matter too much. But so it's why I don't use the insta on-off blocks too. It's just a subtle difference, but maybe some people might get thrown off by that difference. What's the 5th block letter? Oh, yeah, middle is, or M is the middle of the block. Basically, that's a good point. We'll get into that. If you're in the middle of a block, you will die. I think it's always. I can't remember if you can be in the middle of a block and not die if you're moving left. Because technically, if you're big, you can actually clip inside a block. It'll just push you to the left. But it won't kill you. If you duck, maybe that's when the M value gets set. I'd have to look at this assembly, but I'm pretty sure if you see this, and then that equals Mario is just dead. But we'll get into that, because actually that's using the next level. So there's not that much here to explain in terms of the technical side. The only thing to mention really is that this dolphin will always go to the right, no matter what, when it swaps. The first one that goes to the left, that's just to set things up. But here, that's why it faces right. The Fish and Boo can move left when it starts getting swapped, because it'll just move towards you. So if it's to the right of you, it'll just move to the left. But this dolphin will always go to the right no matter what, which is how I use it in this obstacle or level, really. And then here, I decided to make the water area, landing area, wide because of the fact that the Fish and Boo not only moves left and right, but you can see it moves up and down. So you'd have to be very precise if I, for example, wanted you to land on the water that's 1 tile wide. That'd be, I think it's way too precise. So I made it so that these obstacles are lenient in terms of where you can have this dolphin land. That's also why I also have this outline, so you can pre-plan where this dolphin or Fish and Boo, they're going to be positioned as you hit the on-off. Let me see if I can do this. So you can see this dolphin is actually kind of out of the water. I think it only checks the back half of the dolphin. That's why this 9 is over the left side of the dolphin, not the right. So even if his tail is like just barely in the water, it'll think it's in the whole dolphin's in water. So likewise, if we try to do it, get the dolphin in the front here. Well, you can see how I mean by leniency here. I don't even think I can really get the dolphin to get in the front. I'm trying to get to land here. What I did here is, this is a kind of a fake custom. This is fake water as well to compensate for the fact that the back half of the dolphin is what checks what's in the water. So even though if it looks like the dolphin, like it was here, its nose was in the water, but since its tail wasn't, it would just fall down and despawn. So what I had to do was make this fake water. So it looks like the dolphin can land here and still go upwards. But even, it's kind of hard to line up because this Fish and Boo is just so far. The Fish and Boo does move with the screen. It's like one of the few levels that moves with the screen, so you can see that it's really speeding up as the screen moves. But the other thing I had to keep in mind is if you were to get the dolphin as far back as possible, like here, or as far forward as possible, the next obstacle is still possible. So that way you don't feel like you get cheated out of attempts where it's like, oh, I just barely made the water, but now this next section isn't going to line up because I just barely made the water. I think it's better just to have it not work instead of have it not work. If something's not going to work, it's probably better for it to not work immediately rather than, you know, 10 seconds later you find out something that didn't work 10 seconds ago is the reason why the obstacle's not working. That's also to help with conveying that what you did was wrong in a way, because a lot of people want to learn from their mistakes. I'm one of those people, so it's better to know that you made a mistake earlier in the process than later in the process. So here the water is laid out so that even if you bounce as far left as possible, you can land here. If you land as far right as possible, you can still land here, and that you're able to reach these on off. That's why there's 2 of them, so you can still reach either one depending on where the dolphin is. And that's basically how I positioned every single spot of water. So I'm not going to explain for every single time, but just keep in mind that everywhere you see there's a lot of water, no matter where you land the dolphin, you will have a chance to beat the next obstacle. Here we have another screen scroll. This one's only 3 wide though, not 4. Wait, we can actually maybe demonstrate the water part I'm talking about. Yeah, you see? This is just like water particles. It's over this block. So the dolphin appears to be in water and it actually works, which I guess is why it's kind of 3, because it's really just 4. See, like that's kind of really close there, and that's why there's 2 here. So I always lean towards the leniency over not leniency. Nothing really here. In terms of this part, I don't know if a lot of people struggled with this, but there is a chance that this flame could hit you as you're trying to bounce on the bat. But that's in the player's control, because it's all dependent on when you hit the on-off, and again, 2 on-offs to give that window of leniency a little bigger. So if you want the flame to be lower, you'd want the dolphin to be lower, which means you want to hit this later. So if you hit it later, you shouldn't have that issue, because the flame will be much lower, like that. And then you should always just dodge this guy. And then this part's kind of funny. Because I wanted to see if I could get the on-off to swap a lot, because I had this idea where since the gimmick is on-off swaps the dolphin and the fish and boo, what if I made it happen frequently? Because if it happens frequently, I mean, you've seen the obstacle, right? And the way to set that up is either you can use shells to hit an on-off back and forth, kind of like in Mario Maker, if you want an on-off state to swap a lot. But I wanted to swap 1 at a specific time, 2 at a consistent time, and 3 a specific amount of times. And if you want a shell to do that, it's a lot more precise with how I wanted to set it up. So what I did instead is I kind of hard-coded it in some of the level's code. And because it's not a shell hitting it on-off, because a thing with the shell hitting on-off is it could be dependent on when you despawn the shell. If you despawn it too early, the on-off state might be opposite of what you want it to be. That's probably the biggest pain, honestly, to figure that out. So instead, what I did was basically when you get to a certain X position. Wait, no, I think it's when the I have to look at the code. It's either you get a certain X position and the dolphin the dolphin is at a specific X position. I think both the criteria are met. Yeah, because you can see that this dolphin. Oh, no, I think it is me. Oh no, I think I did have the criteria for both me or the dolphin. I think it's actually just the dolphin, because I think you only care about the dolphin. Because if you get to this point in the level, it doesn't really matter where you are, because you got to get to the spat anyways. But you notice that the dolphin will swap right here. And it doesn't matter where I am. So that's what I did. I checked for the dolphin's position. So that way, where it is X position wise will be consistent. The only thing that will be a little different is its Y position, because depending on where it bounces off the water here, it'll be higher or lower. But the nice thing about this obstacle is it doesn't matter where it bounces in the water. If it bounces here or here, it'll be like higher or lower. And the height of this dolphin, fish and boo, doesn't matter. Because here your position where you can anticipate the timing and also where you want to land on the dolphin, whether it's a little higher or a little lower. Again, talking about leniency here. If the dolphin's high-ish, I think this is a higher dolphin actually, because the dolphin can get pretty low. You'll notice I have plenty of room to make this jump. Well, no, let me actually do it. Like, I easily clear it. But that's because if you get a lower dolphin, like down here, you can still clear it. Even if you, like, have the dolphin really low. And that's why this water is positioned here. So if a low dolphin will hit the front of this, you can continue. The high dolphin should hit near the back of it. You can still continue. I guess it's kind of a mid dolphin then. How mid? And then I had no way to kind of indicate this is going to stop. So I just put this here. Positioned so that it's... I mean, this background will always be like this as you get here. It's positioned so you can see it in the background. On-off times 14. So if you want to count, 14 times. Originally I had it not say that because if you see water, you can kind of deduce that it'll eventually go back to a dolphin. But I wanted to be safe and just let you know ahead of time that's just going to do it 14 times. Because maybe you'd think that you'd have to hit an on-off to change it back. But this was like kind of the best way I can make the obstacle work in my favor and also be consistent. But I think it's pretty good. People pick it up really quick. I like people's reactions to seeing on-off 14. On-off 14? Yeah, sure. No, I guess I just gotta do it. It's fine. Or is it a safe sleep? Yeah. Here, you're intended to do 2 small jumps because you're not ever... Oh wow, maybe you can do it big. Wow, who knew? I guess you can do 1 big jump if you want. Never mind. I was gonna say it's not possible, but just I guess it's not that tight because I did it like 3 times. All right, I guess you can do either if you want, but the intended way is just to do 2 small hops. And then here, just on off one more time. This actually worked out timing wise because you don't have too much time to dilly-dally here because the on-off will disappear. It does have a timer. You can actually see it on screen. It's this number right here. When this number reaches 0, the throw block disappears. So it's in frames. So you have about 80 frames, a little more than a second. So you can waste a little bit of time, but not too much. So I'm happy that kind of worked out. It's kind of hard to do in real time. Or from a safe state, rather. I decided to make the pipe lenient. I originally thought about putting spikes here, but I was like, nah, we'll be chill with it. Same thing with like that there not being spikes on the bottom either. Well, I guess you can't really hit the spikes. You're just already in a position to get the pipe. No troll. Like I said, I don't want to force a troll if I can't think of one. I could not think of a troll, so I try to think of trolls related to the gimmick of the level. Most of the time. Sometimes they're just coin blocks or fish, or a dolphin out of the lava. Well, I guess that was the there was the one use of the dolphin, right? I get one use of a troll dolphin that was used in level 3. You only seen Juz play it? Yeah, the 14 on-off, you're like, what is that? And then they play a part. That's also why it's positioned that way, because you bounce off a bat and then you land on the turn block or a throw block. So that way, as you're doing the obstacle, you can kind of see what's going on with the on-off. So by the time you do that obstacle, you will land on the throw block and the on-off would have went like 4 times. And by that time, you're like, oh, that's what 14 times means. So a lot of my level design always tries to use the level to learn the level. And then where I can't use that, I will either explain it in a message box or have a tutorial room or write indicators. So here we get to Resurrections. Banger song from Celeste. So the gimmick here is die, land on a 1-up, you revive. If you don't, you will die. And these are all sprites. Because believe it or not, when you die, the game actually still runs. This is basically just in the kind of a cutscene state. I think it's 71. So you're in the process of dying. It's 9. But if you go into the, is it 14? Was it 9D? I think it might be 9D. I don't know. I forget which address, but the game still runs. Mainly sprites. Their sprite code still runs during this time. Mario interaction with blocks does not run, so that's why these have to be sprites. So even though Mario's in the process of dying, you can check to see if Mario has collided with the sprite. If so, then you will revive him. Which actually is a pretty simple process. You basically just set that address I was talking about was 71. You set that back to 0. And then you set 90 also to 0. 90 is basically the sprites are locked. They can't do anything if that's... Well, I should say most sprites, because these are custom sprites where even if this is set to 0, it can still run its code. So you see when I die, this is set to 1, which means don't run sprite code, depending on the sprite. So most sprites. Some sprites, they do still run during this, and we'll actually see that in the level. And then you can see this is just basically the RAM address for being, oh, you're dying? And it just sets that back to 0, and then the game continues. And then the way this works in terms of with the direction you die. So if you hit a ceiling when you die, this is where the blocks, these individual bits I guess I could put this up. This should be 77. I should probably rename these blocked. And then this is sprites frozen question mark. This is just a cutscene. Well, I guess we really just care about 9s. Let's say cutscene. Mario dead equals 9. So here, since this is I wonder why it's in this order. It should be right to left, really. So if you're blocked from the right side, this should be 1. No, I guess it's 4. Oh, it's 4 because I'm blocked from the right and left. So I'm blocked from the right, it should be 1. Yeah, I'm blocked from the right side, it's 1. So this is the second bit, this is the third bit, fourth bit, fifth bit. So basically, if you're blocked from above, this will be 8. So you notice when I die, boom, 8. Yeah, we're masking bits. Because if you're blocked from the the bottom and the right, it'll be what, 1 plus this 5, 1 plus 4, 5. So if you're blocked from the top, basically if this is 8, you will fall down. You won't go upwards. But if you're not blocked from the top, if you're blocked right, if you're blocked from the side, from the bottom, from the left, you will go upwards. Which I didn't think people would be... Well, at first I didn't think that was... Well, I guess you don't really pay attention to when you... I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm probably one of the few people that notices that when I die. Because when you're dying in a regular level... Well, I guess there's instant retries, so you don't know. Basically, what I'm saying is I didn't realize this wasn't knowledge that people didn't know. And that's why I have this block here. Because some people, like, they would hit this and die at the same time. It would have to be the exact same time. They would fall down, right? And they'd be like that. And they'd be like, what? Why did that happen? So now what I did was put this block here. So that way... These are kind of just to indicate where I want you to die. So that way you always go up. But yeah, I didn't realize people didn't know that. Or like think that want to know that. But now it kind of makes sense. So I guess in hindsight, I should maybe design this a little differently. Maybe had only put 1 spike here instead of 2. But yeah, some people would die in the tutorial and be like, what did I do wrong? And then I'd be like, oh, I should have done this a little better, huh? And then I also give you iframes. The amount of iframes to give you is just custom because you're never supposed to revive in an actual level. So I decided on 40 just to give you a little bit of time so you can just die immediately when you hit a spike. And the last thing I did is, so if you look at Mario's speed upwards, this is actually the max speed you can go upwards. This is, it should be 80. I want to say this is 7D. Yeah, so this frame address is Mario's Y speed. So basically the way the death animation works is it sets it to a certain Y speed. It's actually not 80. It's set to a much lower level. You know what? We'll go to Super Mario World, guys. You want to see Super Mario World? So if I die, it's actually 90. You can see Mario doesn't go that high when he dies. But here I modified it so he goes pretty high up. You can notice the height difference. But that's just to make some of these obstacles work, because when you die, I want you to get pretty high up. So I modified it so when you die, you will get sent up a little higher. And the way Y speed works in Mario World is 0 to 7F are downwards values, so you're moving down. 80 to FF is pause, or that's going upwards. So that's why, right, I'm going downwards 70, 46, 0 to 7F. And then upwards, I mean, this was the max amount, -128 in decimal. So that's like as high as I can make you go upwards without modifying the physics even more or something. So Mario doesn't usually die this high in vanilla. And then here we have, I mean, just the first obstacle, really. Nothing really to note. Although these are so remember we talked about the spike hitboxes being actual spikes? These ones are actually normal blocks, because if they were the actual spike hitboxes, if I land right here, I would fall down because of how I'm using actual spike hitboxes. So these are normal block hitboxes where it's just a square. Because the only places you really need to use the spike hitboxes are areas where you're going to maybe pass around a spike, which are like basically this one, this one, this one, this one. You don't really care about the ones inside. So to make it so Mario doesn't just like fall down here, you can just actually run across these. These are just normal hitboxes. Which is why if you die to a spike with a normal hitbox, it makes me tilt, because look where I am. Like, I'm not visibly hitting the spike, but I'm touching the hitbox. So we go here, though. Here's one example. I'm holding right. Oh wait, no, this one's actually, I think, also a regular hitbox spike. If this was an actual spike hitbox, if I hold right here, yeah, I mean, this one's a regular spike hitbox, it's not a big deal. Then I could, like, run to the right here and I wouldn't die, but I guess I made that one a regular. Let me actually check. No, apparently that one's not. Well, anyways, we'll just continue playing and then you'll see, like, situations where there's normal hitboxes and I can just run across these. I missed. Great start. Yeah, nothing really technical here. Just different obstacles. Again, just wanted you to die here. That's why this is a outline. That's also why this is a block, because I don't want to use a regular spike hitbox, because you might hit the side, and then if you hit the side, the game thinks you're not hitting the ceiling, and then you fall upwards first. So that's just to make those two things happen. And now here, oh, perfect. Yeah. So this is why I pretty much said F it. All these sprites, all, if not all, most of these spikes are just gonna have the normal hitbox for S and W, just to make it easier to die in the correct direction. So you see exactly right here, like you touch this and you'd be like, I'm not hitting the spike, and then you die. So here's probably the only example where you have a sound cue for a bullet. And that is because I use varying bullet build timers throughout the hack. They're not going to be the same speed depending on the level. So if you pretend there was no sound here, you're not going to know when the next one's going to shoot. You have to make that assumption. So that's why there's an audio cue here. So you know when the fourth one's going to shoot. Otherwise, you have to pre-fire it. You'd have to just get to the obstacle once and then know that. So here's just to make your life easier. And that's literally the only spot where I kind of needed that. All the other bullet build setups are, you don't need to know when the second bullet is going to shoot. But this one you kind of do. And then one other neat thing I did was I made it so this bullet right here will always kill you, because there's a chance where if you get a bounce off the saw pretty high up, you can get above this bullet and you can kill bullets with a spin jump if you're above it. The way that the game checks whether you bounce off an enemy, / kill it, / spin jump off of it, versus dying, is it will, I guess we'll just name this to Y speed. So the way that the game checks is if the Y speed is, if the Y speed is positive, basically 0 to 7 FF, if that value is positive and you're above the sprite, you will not die. You'll like bounce off or whatever. If that value is negative, so if you're moving upwards, when you're touching the sprite from above, you will die. But since you can actually get above this bullet and start falling down. So even if your speed is like 3, the game thinks the game will make you bounce because your value is positive. So like technically here, I mean, it would cut it close, but the idea is I would just spin jump and kill the bullet. So what I had to do was make it so this is kind of a custom bullet bill. And only for this level, it does not matter. Well, I made it so it doesn't even matter if you're above it. You're just gonna die. So you don't accidentally kill a bullet because you got too good of a jump here. So no matter what, you are dying to this bullet. You will not accidentally kill it. So that's one thing I made an adjustment for. And it's only for literally just this specific area, because if you see, I can bounce off of it again. So that way you don't get hecked by too good of a spin jump off the saw, which you can't really control. That's out of your control. Anything that's out of your control, or reasonably out of your control, I will do what I can to make it so it doesn't like screw you over. And here we have a little Yoshi ditch. And then we have a nice little charge and check here. Any day now. This one, I thought about making a spike, but I decided to make it a muncher just to display the hitbox better. Because if it was a spike, because I need this to be a normal hitbox, it would you would die even though you're like touching here. So that's why I made this a muncher. And I could have made them both of these, but I mean that's just kind of just an aesthetic decision. I don't like. Actually, no, it's not an aesthetic. Kind of. Basically, all these blocks are ones I'm intending you to hit. So if I put this one up top, it might be perceived that I want you to hit the top of it or the side of it rather than just only the side. But that's also why I have coins here to also indicate that I want you to hit the side of it. But I mean, I like munchers. Munchers are cool. That's why that's a muncher. And the rest of the soul has like... I missed. The rest of these have spikes. Here, I mean... I don't know if I needed these indicators. I just put them in anyways, just to help convey people, because maybe they try to touch it or something, like get off Yoshi. Better safe than sorry. Eat this. This is actually hard coded because of if you eat something, if you eat a poison mushroom, because this is a poison mushroom that someone else made, I modify it so if you eat it, well, first of all, I don't think it's even edible. I think the original one's not. So I think I made it edible and also made it so that if you eat it, you will just die. Is the Mario Sprite different? No, it's the same. And I also had to make sure that, I mean, you just can't spit it out for some reason. So I don't know why do you want to try to spit out, but even if you push X or spit out in any frame, you just die. Just in case, I don't know. And then you don't necessarily have to be on Yoshi to do whatever the sprite you're swallowing does. So for example, if you were to eat just like a fire flower, a cape, a star, in the original game, you would be given the effects of it. So you would get the mushroom, you would get the fire flower, the star power. So likewise, even though I'm off Yoshman, I will die. Don't have to be on him. So that's how this setup works. And then here's an example of despite this address being set to 1 when you do die, the sprite code still runs. It's mainly for shells. In terms of vanilla S&W, it's really just shells, I think. And it's mainly just their graphics. The sprite code itself doesn't change, but the graphics routine, if I remember correctly, if we look at this address, does this address run? Yeah, so this is the global frame counter. So the global frame counter will increment even when the game is paused. and the in-level frame counter does not increment when the game is paused. So it's, I mean, you can't see it, but, well, you can kind of see it. So the game is paused, it doesn't run. When the game is unpaused, it runs. Most sprites use the in-game frame counter for their graphics routines for anything that needs to animate. But for some reason, shells, they use the global one. So that's why they animate even when the game is paused. Some sprites, they have sprite tables purely dedicated to animation. So it kind of depends on the sprite and how they were coded. But that's just a little fun fact. I thought about modifying the sprite, because these are all custom sprites, so you can just like edit in the code to make it animate when the game is not animate when the game is paused, but I decided to just leave it because I don't know, why not? And here for this obstacle, this is positioned so that you have to hit it from the top. You try to hit it from the bottom. Let me actually position it. I can't position it. It's even positioned so it's friendly to hit it from the top, from the top. There you go. I mean, I hit it from the bottom. You can see I don't have enough height to hit it. So the intended strat here is you can, well, hit it from the top or even like the side of it. Even if you hit like down here, you'll have enough height to get to this mushroom. And then here, apparently there was two strats. Some people are throwing it up like that and then laying on it, but the intended strat, well, I guess as long as the other strat works, the intended strat is to throw it up when you're there. And then here's another example of, we get to look at the RAM, all these values down here. So what sprite is this? 5. P-switch is in sprite slot 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're looking at the RAM address 154C, which is the disable player interaction timer. And again, whenever you kick a sprite, that timer is set to 10. But here, if you set that value to 10, you're going to go through the P-switch as you are being revived. I think I always set it to here. Yeah, okay. So the comments say, if we look at this timer here, I'm just going to throw it up. So it's not set to 10. And by 10, I mean in hexadecimal. So it would really be 16. Here it's set to 6. And that is to make it so that you will be able to interact with the P-switch by the time it's there, because you already see how close it is and it's at 1. So that's to make it so that this trick just works. So that's why I had to shorten that timer, only for this level, only for the setup. Obviously you can't throw it too early, you still have to time it, but that's just to make it so that it'll work. Okay, let me do this. And then again, stump is not grabbable because people are going to hold Y the moment they hit it to get speed again. I mean, I don't want people to accidentally grab this because they'll accidentally grab it. And if you're grabbing an item, you're going to bonk the shell and kick it. So that's just to make it so you don't get hecked over by that. And then here's an example of the timer getting set to 10. So here I kick it, right? You see this value is 10. So for 16 frames, you cannot interact with this shell. And if that was true for the P-switch, this P-switch would have went straight through you and up here and you would have died. And then I guess you would have had to done the other strat. Because if you do the other strat, you throw it up like Omega early and then you can land on it. But I didn't even know that strat existed. So here, we had to do some more modifications. Hi, Angel. The modification here is, remember when I said that I made sprites easier to land on in midair? So basically I made it lenient to hit sprites from above. Also making it harder for you to die, right? Because I'm opening up the window for you to land on the sprite. At the same time, I'm closing that same window for you to be able to die. But for this next trick, you are intended to do a shell jump, which kills you. Which means that because of how lenient it is to land on sprites, that death window, that death hitbox that you can hit is smaller. Which means that I had to modify the hitbox to make it big again. Because when you make something lenient, the opposite becomes not lenient. So the friendlier you make hitboxes are to land, the less friendly it is for dying to it. So here you can actually die pretty low on the shell. If this was a normal shell, you would not interact with it that low. Because see how much lower Mario is compared to the shell. So that's my way to compensate for the fact that you can land on a shell much lower than normal. So you basically have to throw it later. So making the shell jump timing is... I opened it back up. I don't know what the exact window is. It's at least like 3 frames maybe, but... Let me back it up here. Right, like if you do a shell this early, I think you should bounce off of it. But that's due to the leniency I had, so we had to lower the... Actually, I think I also raised the hitbox for dying because this is a custom shell, and I can do some custom hitboxes of custom shells, not necessarily the same for every sprite. So I did raise it a little because if this was a normal hitboxing, I would probably bounce off that shell, even though I was kind of low. But that is one thing I had to do. Because at first I was like, dang, it is really difficult to die the shell. But then I was like, oh yeah, because I made shells lenient. I had to make the death hitbox bigger to compensate. And here's just a normal trick. I had to lower the bomb detonation timer because this bomb detonation timer... Actually, can you see it here? Yeah, this detonation timer is not this low. It'll be set to 255, I think. Right now it's like 170 something. And that's another thing I did with the 3 beeps. To give you an idea when it's going to blow up. Because it does kind of blink, but it doesn't blink until near the end. And it's also kind of hard to see the blink as you're spin jumping, so I added an audio cue as well. That's also why this saw doesn't make sound, because it kind of gets in the way of being able to hear that this is about to beep. Because you don't have a lot of sound effects you can play at one time. It's really just kind of 2. Which is why sometimes when you hear Mario jump or spin jump, you don't actually hear it because it gets overwritten by a different sound effect. Which is one of the downsides to this game. You really don't have a lot of sound effects that can play at the same time. And I only... A lot of the saws here, if they play a sound effect, is somewhat random. Like sometimes you'll see a saw and be like, I don't know how many people notice, but not every saw makes a sound or doesn't make a sound. I will mainly make a sound if I need to convey that a saw is about to appear. Because one of the nice things about having a saw make the sound, the grinder sound, is since it spawns about 2 screens off screen, you'll hear the grinder sound and know that ahead of time the grinder is going to appear. So it gives you time to react. But it also kind of gets in the way of hearing other things. So I won't really play the sound effect unless I kind of need to. Otherwise, yeah, I'll just have a silent saw. Like this one. More ambient, I guess, too. Nothing crazy about this setup. Yeah, this is kind of just all whatever. Again, block here too. I don't know why this is a muncher. This one probably should have been a spike, but that's okay. This level used to originally be all munchers before I turned it into like a castle-like ghost house spike kind of aesthetic, so I guess I just forgot this, but it's not a big deal. And then here we have the troll. Remember cement blocks and how pretty much if you see a cement block that equals a troll of some sort? That's why it's here. And if you try to hold right to brush the wall, you will bounce off the snow block and die. I had to modify it so it pushes you like omega far to the left, because the vanilla one, it doesn't push you as far and you can just kind of hold right, but this one that launches you. So there's that troll. And then I have 2 spikes here to make the window bigger so it's not very precise. 3 spikes was too low, unfortunately. If you hit this 3rd spike, you won't make it. And this mushroom has to be positioned so you can click back up here, so. But thankfully the trick isn't too bad to hit. And there's the first half, yay! First half's kind of sick. The first half was inspired by 2 different things. It was inspired by Barb's resurrection level in Grand Prix World 3. And it was inspired by a hack called Mario's Catastrophe, which had the death into a revival gimmick literally like 15 years ago, so. But I never thought to make it into a Kaizo level. That's why when I watched Barb's level, I was like, oh, you know, it could actually be a kind of cool Kaizo gimmick. And then I decided to make my own version. So with section 2, the change up here is now the revive sprite is carryable. So the way this works is when you die, you will respawn where the mushroom is and also with the momentum that the mushroom has when you throw it. So we can kind of look at some values here off the top of my head. I think X speed is B6, Y speed is AA. So we're going to go to AA so you can see both tables AA and B6. So these are the sprite X and Y speed tables. So we're in sprite slot 11, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is the Y speed. And then the X speed somewhere. We'll just do Y speed because I have it shown. So if you notice when I die, well, I might just instantly die based on this. Well, I didn't. But you notice when I respawn here, my Y speed is going to be set to C3 or C6. So I think it might be set to C3 and then it actually moves the physics 1 frame forward. We'll see. So here, C3, so they match. Exactly, so. That's why this first step is kind of like this. And then the second step is like this. So you can kind of get an idea of what the gimmick is. Now, for some reason, if you happen to have 2 of these sprites active at the same time, I actually don't think it breaks. I think I kind of tested it, and I think it warps you to 1 and then immediately warps you to the second one, and then both of them disappear. But you're never going to be in a position where you have 2 active at the same time. And then in here, I kind of wish I put this troll, like imagine this troll being like the second to last jump instead of being like 5 seconds into the level. But I wanted to put this troll in because I think it was funny, because it's one of those very unexpected coin blocks. Because we've had positions where you know you can sniff out the coin block. You do the like jump at the edge of a ledge, be like, oh, coin block or something. But like, not a lot of people are gonna think it's gonna be a coin block right below a death block. But it being so into the level, or not that far into the level, I think some people still enjoyed it. But just imagine the pain it would have been to see this setup like near the end. But it's fine. I still like this troll. And then yeah, I mean it's timing. Here we have coin blocks to indicate, and as well as the death blocks. I mean, 2-for-1 combo. Originally, these coins weren't here, but I think I just put them in just to make it more clear. If we try to throw it up, these will die to the sprite killers. And I think it's not too too much stuff going on, because again, indicators are only bad when you have so many that it starts to cloud what's on the screen, and then it becomes what's the word? It starts hurting more than it helps, kind of thing. And then the setups here, because of the fact that the screen won't scroll, this platform gives you time to, well, there's also a bat here too, right? That's why you can see the bat. So you have enough time to land on the platform and get on the bat, so that way you can perceive what the next obstacle is going to be as you're doing it, which is then it gives you time to time for the screen to scroll back up. It's just done for a good 10 seconds. Yeah, I saw that. Nothing here really to say. Again, as you're holding right, the mushroom will be in towards you, so you want to use that to your advantage, because if you throw it too early, it's going to bonk in this and die. I think here I actually do use the pixel perfect spikes again, because it doesn't matter if you touch the spike, you don't have to you know, die upwards or leftwards. Yeah, you can see these are the pixel perfect spikes. But the sprite hitbox, it's still not pixel perfect. It'll still be a square. So you notice when I hit this mushroom hits it, it's going to bounce off, like right there. So you have to be careful with throwing it up pretty late. But you want to throw it up late because of this too. If you throw it up too early, it's going to die. There actually used to be a coin block above here, but I decided to get rid of it because I had the vine coin block over the other death block, and I like that one better than putting it over here. Oh. Then here we have a nice little arrow for the Thwomp. This might be one of the few arrows for Thwomps to kind of indicate. There are never arrows on Thwomps that move downwards, because that's how vanilla Thwomps worked in SMW. They would only move downwards. But I guess some people thought they would move left. And by some people, I mean only one person, which was Just Cook. Unless someone else also thought this Thwomp would go to the left, but yeah, there's only arrows for ones that go left or right. And if it's not, then you assume vanilla Thwomp. But I could even probably get away with not having this here because of how this obstacle is laid out. As you do this, you'll see the Thwomp moving to the right, but I figured it's, again, better safe than sorry. And then you notice it's not a blue Thwomp, because the blue Thwomp goes back and forth very fast. So it's only going to go left and do its normal Thwomp movement. I actually had to modify the code here, because in vanilla SMW, it doesn't really care how high above you are the Thwomp. Or at least how this custom sprite was coded. Same with going left and right. It doesn't really care how high you... it might care to an extent. Like, it might be like 6 blocks tall or something that it actually starts to care how high you are. I can't remember, but I modify it so it's like Mario Maker, where you have to be like somewhat above it before it starts activating. Rather than, you know, if this was the original detection radius, it would probably start activating even when I'm right here, because it only cares for if you're to the left or right of it, or for left-right Thwomps. So that's why it still doesn't get activated, right? Until, boom, now I'm within the radius vertically. Here, I actually probably should have put a... should I have? Probably anyways, because I think some people took maybe 1 or 2 deaths to figure out exactly what to do. Some people might have figured out eventually, or immediately, that you have to land on the spike. Well, I probably should have made that a death block, because it's one of those ones I want you to land on. But it's too late now, I think. It's pretty lenient, though. You can see I was like kind of inside that block, because they push you downwards. They push you down and left. Wait. So I'm like literally inside this block. Okay, that's too much inside. Was it? This one will work. No, I lied. That'll push me down for sure. Yeah, so. And in here, I honestly thought about putting the fish to where this is. But then I ultimately decided to put the fish here, because I wanted to put one troll. I don't know if anyone actually hit this fish the first time, but the reason I put it here is because I wanted the player to feel like they actually dodged the troll. Well, I mean, they probably have dodged trolls before, but I want to make another fish that's like actually dodgeable, more dodgeable, because I think all the other previous fishes fish are a little easier to hit. But for this one, you gotta land kind of near the back. So I think most people's first reaction would be to land here, right? Just to see what's going on, because they have a safe spot and they see the fish falling, they'd be like, ha, take that. So it gives them a sense of accomplishment. And then here's more chuck gates. Well, not really chuck gate, but I like using chucks in different ways. And this is a nice way because there's a little different timing, because since the chuck only cares about if you're above it and not necessarily whether this sprite is above it, it'll stop jumping, right? Only time it so right? So now it's not jumping, but here it'll jump the moment it starts to detect Mario again. So I like that as a nice kind of a mix up of the obstacle chuck kind of bounce thing. And here we gotta bring back the shell jump. Every shell jump here is pretty much using the gimmick in some shape or form. There's a few shell jumps where they're kind of just there. I try to avoid using shell jumps for the sake of a shell jump. Like the Skies level is probably one of the only ones where it's just a shell jump for the sake of a shell jump, because the Skies level Steam is just racing the P-switch and timing it, rather than each obstacle having a way to be related to that said gimmick. But every other shell jump is going to be somewhat related to that level specifically. Same with the chuck gates. Shell jumps and chuck gates are kind of used a lot, so I try to use them in the levels gimmick if I can. And then here we have the coin indicators to show you that. Here's an example of actually having the death blocks for me wanting you to land on it. And then to preserve momentum, you want to not hold right, because if you hold right, you will notice that this number here, 63, will decrease by 1 each time you hold right. So you want to go neutral here. And the max speed actually is actually it's not really max speed. There is a glitch where if you get to speed 64, you actually will not jump up. I think I patched that out anyways, but you notice the max speed 63, so that won't even happen. If you frame perfect jump and somehow just get your jump eaten. And then again here, there is a coin block here. I don't think anyone's hit that. But if anyone has, it's pretty cool. Well, I made it intentionally hard to avoid. And then we have the final room. No checkpoint. If you die, you go back. But apparently you can actually just reach this without using the platform, which is actually not a bad thing, because it makes the secret exit easier. Because you can just like do this for the secret exit, or you can the intended way for the secret exit is we want to do that. But being able to do this strat is pretty good too. Well, I guess if you had to get some speed. It was actually originally intended to do this. I had a pit here before where you were forced to go behind the goal because this would just be a troll. But then ultimately I decided to turn that into a secret exit because of the fact that the LR section was its own level too. So I figured I would make it both a secret exit and an actual exit at the same time. And then I also had to make it so actually I'll show that later. For now I'll just beat it. And then I also made it so that you have some stuff behind the goal that kind of hinted at that. Because no, this is the only time there's ever a level where there's stuff behind the goal. And there's even like a little one-way area for Mario to make it extra sus. You know, you always got to be sus. And then here we have the doors to help take you back because I'm so friendly. What I probably should have done here is set an extra checkpoint, but I mean, you can just grab this checkpoint because it'll just take you back here. If you don't grab the checkpoint though, it'll just take you back to the very beginning. But that's okay. You can at least grab this checkpoint, and then you can. Once you see the sus thing, I'm sure people will start to be like, "Can you get behind a goal then?" Because some people might not think it's possible, but then they'd be like, "It's gotta be possible." And then you do one of the two different strats I said with grabbing this mushroom. Oh, the other thing I want to mention actually is you can I die off screen? How do people do that? Oh, there we go. So if you're off screen, like if either the left side or the right side, the game just kills you. Because I mean, you're never really supposed to be in a position where you're off the screen. You're always confined to the screen, so. But if you're like off the screen, you respawn, that's why you'll just die. If people are curious, because I think some people might have not known that was the thing. You just got to keep the mushroom on screen when you die. And then we have good old Hank Sinatra, free portrait. And then here, checkpoint is set though, so now if you do die, you'll get back here. But this level in particular was inspired by a level made by Kevin. It was for a Kaiser level design contest where they took the resurrection gimmick and they made it so that you can use L or R to revive yourself. But this is different because as you're dying, notice how sprites are still moving. And the reason for that is because I made it so if you die, this value, the sprite's frozen, is not set to 1. When you die, it's set to 0. But the thing about that is there's some funny side effects, and again, it mainly comes with the graphics. So even when the sprite's frozen is not set to 1, the in-game frame counter still gets paused. So because of that, in-game frame counter. See, since it's paused, a lot of the sprites use that for their animation, which is why this winged block does not have its wings animated. So, fun fact. Was that Hank pic? I think I got it on his Twitter. Yeah, when I was trying to browse for people's pictures, I would just either go on GDQ because they have a photo album, or if I don't find a good one from GDQ, then I'll just like browse their Twitter or Instagram, something that's public. Is it a tribute to Dram 55? Yes. Well, it's dedicated to him. And that's in the community. So here we can talk about the blocked addresses now. So the way this works is you can revive yourself. But if you revive yourself in a situation where you pretty much die immediately, you will just reset the level. And one way you will die immediately is if you spawn inside a wall. And if you spawn inside a wall, the M bit will get set here. So you notice here, it's set. My block status is, well, it's 19 because I'm blocked from multiple directions, but it will be set to 10, right? Because 1, 2, 4, 8, 10. Apparently I'm blocked from the left, or I'm blocked from the middle, right, and the bottom, right, or something. I don't know. So basically, what I do is I check to see if you're blocked from the middle. And if you are, you're inside a block, and then you just reset the level. Likewise, I'll actually demonstrate. See, you can see I died again, but the level resets anyways. Likewise, if you respawn in the lava low enough, right, you're gonna die immediately. So if I'm pretty low, I respawn. So what I do for there is I just use fake lava, which does extra stuff. It basically sets that address, the block status. You can see it's not highlighted here, but if you look at the address, you can see it's 10, or it is there because it's 10. You see 1D, not 8D, 1D. And because of the way I coded it, I checked this address if it's that specific bit is set, then just reset the level. Whoops. And then what I also did was let me just set this to menu. So same idea, if you get blocked inside the wall, basically this, you can get the prompt to show up. There was a bug where you would not be able to actually do anything, or the prompt wouldn't show up and you'd just be stuck here. And we fixed that, thankfully. So now it shouldn't be a problem. There's even a version where if you would die here, you would just get sent to the overworld. And man, debugging that was kind of annoying. I forget exactly what the problem was, but hopefully I don't have to fix that. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good segue to our sponsor, Minus Tech Tips. No, this a good segue to the death counter. So the other thing I had to do was every time you die, I had to make it so that you or sorry, I had to make it so every time you revive yourself, the death counter decreases by 1, because if I didn't have that, you would have like 1,000,000 deaths. So I think, is it this? Right now, how many deaths do I even have? Okay, so this. So these 5 addresses. This is the 1s digit, this is the 10s digit, this is the 100s digit, this is the 1000s digit, this is the 10,000 digit. So every time you revive, this number will go back down, because right, if as you start the level, right, I'm at 4 deaths apparently. If you die, it's going to go to 5. The moment you die, right, 5. You revive yourself, 4. So that's one thing I just had to do. Otherwise, everyone's death counter after they beat this level will be probably like 100 more, maybe 1,000 more. It's using decimal for drawing the tiles, right? You could, if you want, have it dedicated to go, 0 to FF. That'd be 255, right? But when you see a death counter, it would either be displayed. Most of the time it's displayed in the overworld, like there would be like a icon right here that says like number of deaths, and then it would say however many deaths you had. So if you were to contain it to actually be hexadecimal, you would have to convert this number into decimal and then get that number in decimal and draw it to the screen. I didn't write this death counter, by the way. This is someone else's code. So what I imagine what they did was they made it so each individual address is a number in decimal. So that way you can, when it comes time to draw the counter, you can be like, okay, let's look at the 10,000s digit. What is it? This value. And thousands, 10, 1, or, so forth. So I think it's just easier for them to actually draw the death counter when it comes time. That's my guess. Honestly, probably would be easier. Because I did have to do that with the stats, right? The stats screen, it does use these values. So thanks to them, I didn't have to convert like an extremely giant number, right? Especially the fact that once you get to 255 deaths, right? When you get 256, you'd have to get the logic where it's like the next value would be, this will be 1, and then this will be 0 again, and then you start incrementing again. And the way the SNES works is this assembly only goes to 16-bit max. So people can have tens of thousands of deaths, 99,999, and it'd be kind of annoying to have to do that now that I think about it. So I think this was probably the smart move. So shout outs to Kevin, because Kevin they did the entire retry system and they did the death counter. So I don't know how to code a retry system. Thankfully they do, because I would not know any of this. But thankfully they have ways to like basically take any of these values, because these are all associated with the retry. And they have it so if you want to manipulate anything, like for example, set a checkpoint to a specific level, you can modify, I forget which one of these values. I've had to do that. You can modify like 2 of these values to be like, hey, this level is now this checkpoint. Or like, hey, set the retry prompt to or set the retry to prompt or not, which is this one. Oh, you actually see it right here. This value right here. So this is instant retry. This is menu. So thankfully they're very smart. So shouts to Kevin. So here we have the actual level. And again, the gimmick here is LR to revive, but everything, sorry, all the sprites are still working even when you're dying. So you're kind of using your death time and timing that. And then here, well, I say kind of, the way I do obstacle number one of pretty much every level where there's an obstacle that requires some sort of timing is you just hold right and it'll time it for you, right? So I'm just gonna hold right and jump, and it works every time. That way you don't have to wait at the beginning for like a second or two. That's just because I also hate that. So every level's first obstacle that requires timing actually doesn't, because you just hold right. Well, here you also have to jump, but that's just a subtle thing I did. Same thing with the next level. Well, next in like any percent would be the pipe level. That first level, you just hold right, times it for you. Then here, the LR sprite follows you the entire time because that's actually what lets you revive by pushing LR. That's why this will be above my head. I'm really happy with how this camera block worked, or this setup worked with the camera block. So this is where you have to be mindful with your revives, because again, if you revive into the wall, GG. So very, very happy with this obstacle. You got a little Yoshi action here, and then if you try to, you know, revive early and bounce, or you'll bounce in miss the block. We love stalling. I think anytime we do a stalling section, it's either amount of times you do the trick or duration based. I usually stall for 3 to 4 of the trick, or about like 3 to 4 seconds. So this one you do it 3 times. Oh, what's this frame window? Can we actually look? I'm curious. So 62. So 62 works. What about 65? All right, well, now you know this is a 3-frame window. I never just tested it because I usually get it pretty easily. Well, this is a terrible save state. Let me start here. 3-frame windows free, guys. Do this all day. Okay, now we got places to be. And then, is this another one? No, I can grab the springboard, right? Yeah. It's not gonna be too much to talk about this level. This is actually a shorter section than, actually, this might be one of the shortest sections in the game. This might be like my goal, maybe a short amount. Does anybody remember what time I started this level on? I think I remember measuring this level's length, and it was like 40 seconds, maybe a little less than 40. But, I mean, that's also how I measured this time for each level. I'd play through it, and I'd see the time here when I started and stopped. And that's where I got the most sections, are 40 seconds to a minute. But I think this one is either 40 seconds or just under 40 seconds, which may be my goal length for my next hack. I think people are used to like 20 to 30 seconds, so we'll see. I thought about putting a fish here. I really did, but I decided not to. Because I think there are times where you just do want to see. And it's actually funny because people get to like a place where you can just rest, and they'd be like, "Don't fish me!" So I'm just instilling fear at this point. Now this setup was it was omega nerfed, because before you had to hit this 3 times, and I think in hindsight I'm glad I only make you do it once, because it's pretty tough. And if you had to do it 3 times, I think people will be like, what are you on? And my answer is I'm on insanity, I guess. I don't know. So you do have to be precise with this throw. You want to throw it later, but the shell will die in the lava if you, you know, either don't catch it or hold it. You're liking this? I'm glad you're liking it. This is just a Yap City for your boy. Loon the Spark. What's going on? It was a earlier version where if you threw the shell up, it actually would not hit the on-off, because again, it's talking about that weird thing where sometimes the sprite that gets thrown up will interact with the side of the block, even though you throw it straight up. Just some S&W janks that we had to fix. So now you should never have that problem where if you throw the shell up, it won't accidentally, it won't like not hit the block. And then here we have another one of those blocks where Yoshiman doesn't bounce up and down. That's to make it more consistent. Generally, if you're landing on Yoshiman from above, you don't have to care about this, but because of how tight I have this setup, because you have to land on him like relatively to the right. Like I don't give you a lot of leeway in terms of left and right to land on him, so if he's bouncing up and down, you might not be able to make it. But you'll notice, like before, where you're laying on Yoshiman from above, I'll have him hop up and down just because I like having him hop up and down. I think it's nice. Maybe I'm too used to vanilla S&W where Yoshiman is always hopping. But in those situations, you don't care about whether he's hopping up and down, because as you're approaching him from above, it doesn't matter if you bounce on him a little higher or a little lower. Based on the, well, I guess it depends on the next setup, because in terms of this, I kind of do, because this next setup's more precise. But like earlier in the level, right, where we had the bullet bill part, I probably should explain it there, but remember where you land on Yoshiman, jump off Yoshiman, land on spikes, and then revive on a bullet. Those are situations where I don't really care about whether or not you land on top of him a little higher, a little lower, because of how lenient the next timing the next obstacle is. So a matter of mere frames vertically will not impact whether you get the next trick. But in this case, it does. So that's why I had to make him not bounce up and down. He's just about, you know, just kind of chilling there. Now this part, this part is very rough. I have mixed feelings about this obstacle. I don't mind it, but it's also like, I don't blame people for hating it. Hooray, thank you for the 49 months. Welcome back. So the obstacle here is the Thwomp goes back, forth, left and right. You can notice that the arrows go back and forth, as I've had every Thwomp do basically. But in terms of reviving, you have to time the L or R input. You can't just like hold it, right? If I hold it, you see my R input down here. Doesn't get revived. So you do have to time it. And the strat here is you basically just hold right, and you revive yourself 4 times. But it is pretty tight, because this is not going to make it. I wonder if there's actually, like... I'm curious how people handle this in terms of, like... Maybe go back left. I'm sure people have done that, but the intended strat is you revive yourself 4 times. That's not going to work, but... Like that should work. Nope. Wow. Yeah, it's a pretty tight setup. Maybe I could have made it just a smidge lenient, but it's okay. But here's another camera block setup. This is one of these setups where you're not going to react the moment the screen scrolls, which is why I just kind of end the level. It's also why there's a little bit more before you actually get the goal. I'm not going to put it like right here, because you're going to like jump scared. Granted, it doesn't matter, because there is, you know, even though there's a troll, you're going to just endure the goal walk. But that's why I decided to end the level here. Anytime you really see a moment where the camera is so far to the right, or you're so far to the right screen and you can't react, I'll either just end the level or let you do something. So Here, this is one. I think the second section is slow with the carryable provide block and this level. I think these are the two shortest levels in the game. I'd have to actually go back and time all these levels at some point. Because I never wrote them down. Because I didn't feel like you really need to. It was just for my own curiosity. But I think these two are the shortest in the game. And then here, it's like kind of a troll, but it's more like a, are you paying attention? Or do you remember the gimmick troll? So you can push pretty much whenever here if you want. I also made it so I think you, yeah, even if you die on the same frame that the level ends, you will just, oh, what is this? It won't like glitch out. So I have to make sure you don't accidentally do that. So you notice that you'll still beat the level. Oh, it's these bricks. So yeah, it's just are you paying attention? And I think to my knowledge, only one person did not, and that was the @H_NN person. But I think everyone else is probably just gonna do that first try, which is fine. It's all it is, so. And then there's that level. Are we talking about which are you talking about the values for this on the left, or are you talking about these on the top, or are you talking about both, or are you talking about what's on the screen, like all these numbers here, or all of the above? These numbers are from here. I can show you. These numbers are from SNES, it's from the emulator. If you go to cheat and then Rainwatch, this is Rainwatch. View memory, that's this menu. This is a Lua script. You need to run a specific version of an SNES 9X or BizHawk to see all these numbers. I should probably like put that down somewhere in the future, maybe. But now we're in the Blue Switch Palace. Have we been yapping for 2 hours already? Dude, maybe we're not going to get through all this. This world is, we still have this level, this level, and this level. We yapped for 2 hours on these two levels. Oh, all right, we'll see. I might do this level, and then I'm going to have to break it up, because I only want to do like 3 to 4 hours, so we'll see how this level goes. This one is probably also going to take 1 hour to explain, so. This level, actually, both of these levels are going to take an hour to explain, so I think we'll do this level next, and then we'll break it up into part 4 for these two levels alone. So we'll do this level. And here we have the third Switch Palace, and if you noticed by now, we like to have each Yoshman color a Switch Palace, a Blue Switch Palace, Blue Yoshman. And I want to give them extra powers. So in vanilla S&W, they can you can fly with Yoshman. But you can fly for a long time, so it's based on how long Yoshman can swallow a Sprite timer. Here I make it very short. It's like, what, 36 or something? Yeah, you can see the timer it's supposed to be 255, but I set it to 37 in decimal. So Yoshman got a nerf in that regard, but also got a buff where if you dismount Yoshman, Yoshman can hover. Not fly, but hover. I thought about making it so Yoshman could fly, where if you have something in Yoshman's mouth, it'll go upwards too, but maybe for a new level, guys. I'm not done making levels. Maybe for another level, we can have Yoshman fly upwards. Who knows? But I just made it so Yoshman just stands still. So we had the tutorial room here. And these blocks are only breakable by a fire. Potable, really, because there's not a level with a fire flower, but this only exists because there's like 2 setups with the fire, these ice blocks. There's only 2 levels with these ice blocks. It's the Blue Switch Palace and the Red Switch Palace, but both of these have, the tutorial level have these blocks because, for example, if you found the Blue Switch Palace but not the Red Switch Palace, or vice versa, you will encounter the ice blocks and know exactly what to do or what they do. And then spikes, they kill you if you're on Yoshman. Right, so. And then we introduced this block. Well, I guess this was also in the tutorial level. The tutorial will explain all these blocks, but the one thing I thought about changing is making it so Mario has to be a little higher up before the game thinks you're touching the block, because if you see Mario, like literally Mario's pixel, the pixel of his hat is touching the block, and then it dies. But it's not, none of the subs are really that precise where it's gonna matter. But I just think it looks a little weird. But ultimately, that's why I made that decision. Can you make it so all objects gain wings? You mean all sprites? You know, that could be a good idea. Who knows? I mean, I'm always down for new ideas for levels. That could be a future idea. Also, fun fact, if you want to enter a door with Yoshman, you have to have a 2-tile tall door. If it's just 1 tile tall, it will not work. Mainly because the detection radius for the door is going to be up here where Mario actually is instead of lower. I think that's how that works. Personally, I'm a 2-tile tall door stan. I think 1-tile doors look weird. They're just for if you want to enter an area of small Mario, because again, if you're big Mario, you need to have a 2-tile tall door. But I don't know, I'm used to having doors be 2-tile talls. Although there's been a few places where, well, I mean, if you just go here, ignore that. I mean, all these doors are 1 tile, but I don't know. I like having 2-tile tall doors if possible, but I just made these 1 because I don't know. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I want to talk about real quick. So I had to make this door appear only after you beat the secret exit. Same thing with the rope level, right? If you beat the secret exit, technically you beat the level, and based on the logic, this door would appear. But I had to make it so that this door only appears if you beat the secret exit. So if you want to get back to this room for whatever reason, it's here. That was just something I forgot to mention. There's been a few things I already forgot to mention in previous levels, but it's okay. I might come back if I remember or if I care enough. But now we get to the level itself here. So the thing in S&W is, actually we can look in Lunar Magic for this. We're gonna go to this level. So in Lunar Magic, you can't actually place any blocks here. However, you can, in regular S&W, you can go underneath this, like this. So what I had to do was kind of what Mario Maker does, where if it's walled off from the bottom, it just pretty much extends the wall infinitely. So you just pretend the game thinks that there's a wall here when there really isn't, right? But if there's not a block directly on the lowest tile, then it won't think that there's a wall there and you can go underneath it. That's why this setup here, you know, it's kind of close to the bottom, but it's not actually. So the interactions off screen, I basically made the same as Mario Maker, where they're invisible walls extending from below and above. So there's no cheese here, right? If I'm holding right, it's not happening. You can see my X position is not budging forward past 66. These are just subpixels. All the homies hate subpixels. There's a small door on a semi-solid work. Semi-solid. Technically, yes. The way the game checks if you enter a door is it checks the block status. Are you blocked from below? Which is, I guess I already made a safe state, but so it doesn't matter what you're standing on as long as you're blocked from below. As long as this value is whatever it is, 4, 8, then you can enter a door. Yeah, these numbers are subpixels, so Because if you're holding right into a wall, my speed isn't 0. You can see my speed is 1, 3, 4, 6, you know, 7, 2. So basically, it increments this until it reaches FF, or it gets past FF, right? And then it will set your speed back to the 1 or 2. That's why you could see it be, you know, C, and then the next one was what's my speed right now? 4, 6, so it should go back to the lower number, yeah, 2. So that's just some subpixel stuff. Same thing when you're landing on ground. I guess we'll do that. My speed's actually always 6, unless I'm holding jump, then it'll be 3. See, now it's 3, and you can see that's oscillating. So the more subpixel nans. But again, you don't really have to care about that. It's mainly useful if you want to clip into things for tasking. It's kind of how wall jumping works, actually. So you need at least 33 speed to wall jump, because 33 is 2 blocks plus, you know, 10. So if you get to the position here, right, 66, if you get to FF, well, I guess that was F for a second. Like E or F, right? The next, if you're going fast enough, right, it would be 33 or 34 in this case. You would add that, calculate it, and then you would be inside the wall an extra block that you shouldn't be. Because since the subpixel is E0, it would go F0 and then 0, 0, which would be the next block, would be 67. And then actually, it would be nice to go 69 because based on my example. But that's how wall clipping works. I patched it out, which is why if I were to approach the speed at like full speed, you would not go past 66. But in vanilla SNW, if you go past SNW, you'd see it go 60, like whatever, 68. But again, I patched it out, so you're never going to actually clip in the wall. You know what? Sidetracked right here. We'll demonstrate. We'll demonstrate a wall clip, guys. Alright, so what's this? My position 2690. So what you want to do is you need at least 33 speed, because that would give you 3 blocks, 3 pixels to be inside the wall jump. But you can see in this example, if I'm just on the ground, right? So my speed's going to oscillate between 35 and 37. Depending on how I position this, though, I might just get blocked by James immediately. Oh, okay. Well, let me just do this. Because if you want to set a wall jump, you do have to, like, pass it, kind of. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to set my exposition. Hello? Set my exposition? Set my exposition? There. So I'm just going to hold right. Where am I? So you saw how I'll go to 91 for a second? Right here, it's 89, then 91. The way the game does it, it pushes you out of a block if it thinks that you're inside of one at a rate of 1 pixel a frame. So that's why it's at 91 and it goes to 90. So if you want to manipulate that, since I held right, what I could do is let go of right for a few frames. Maybe here, and then see where my position is now. Now it's 92, right? Is that actually enough for a wall clip? I think you only need two for a wall clip, actually. Let's see. So 92. I think I might put a wall clip. No, it's got to be 3. So you want to manipulate your subpixels, basically, so... Which is a bit of trial and error. Do I really want to demonstrate a wall clip right now? I don't know. Not really, but you get the idea. That's how you the subpixels actually matter, because then you can like get inside, push inside a wall. But that was a quick sidetrack. But here it doesn't matter because I patched it out, so it will never get inside a block. Anyways, back to the level. So here's the ice blocks we show. I had to be conscious of this because you don't want this Potoboo to accidentally kill things as it's going to the right. So that's why you would fall down and heat this one, then go to the right. Because by the time you do all this and go back up, this Potoboo is going to despawn because when it's a little off screen, it's just gone. So you can see here, this Potoboo is going to be, it doesn't have, this little script doesn't show these types of sprites existence. You'd have to look in the RAM here when I don't feel like pulling it up. So you just have to do a trust me bro moment where this Potoboo is pretty much like, and now it's actually just gone. The moment it's off screen is when it's gone. Different than sprites where they have to be off screen by like 2 blocks before they despawn. But that one is that one's just gone now. Then here, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the Cape level, but in Super Mario, there's a timer where if you push jump, Yoshman will fly up automatically for 16 frames. It doesn't matter if you're pushing jump or not during that time. And you cannot hold it either if you're small. If you hold jump, you will just start falling down after you reach those end of those 16 frames. But here I made it so you can hold jump and ascend. You know, and there's not any timer base, so the moment you let go of jump, you start falling. So if I tap A, that's how you do these small, tap B, that's how you do those small bounces up. Which is something Mario Maker also did well. In Mario Maker, it basically works like that. You don't have to worry about these like descent timers or ascent timers or anything. You push jump, you fly, you let go of jump, you fall. So, one of the few things Mario Maker actually did right. That's how this setup works. And then here, I mean, not much to explain either. We have an audio cue and a visual cue because I like to do both whenever I can. Here I actually got rid of a glitch where if you eat a shell and bounce off of it at the same time, you'll actually prioritize eating it so you can basically gain extra height and eat the shell. It's kind of a task strat. But I removed it so that way you don't accidentally get it and then it kind of throws you off kind of thing, because it might throw you off here. One of those accidentally frame perfect kind of things. So even the task doesn't do it. So that's how I know it works, because it is a task strat. And if the task doesn't do it, then I did a good job patching it out. I think technical-wise, it's not gonna be too much more, because it's basically the same mechanics as the previous Yoshis, where spit direction, even if you're facing right, you push left, you spit it out left. Which you gotta make use of here. You gotta have the tongue, Yoshi's tongue, actually touch the sprite. It's not like Mario Maker where just any part of the tongue hits it. You need to be very conscious of your tongue game. And kind of positioning too, because the further you are away, right, the longer it's going to take for whatever you're eating to get back in your mouth before you can start flying. So for example here, I might die honestly if I'm too low. Oh, I live, but you can see how low I got before I started ascending. As opposed to here, it's a lot quicker. So it's a lot of tongue management and position management. And here we have two different strats. You can do this strat, which is kind of hard. We have to like kind of hold left and then time it. Or you can bonk the wall. Because Yoshman actually kind of preserves his entire momentum when he bounces off of walls, which is not like in Mario Maker. So you can see how it's very fast when he bounces off this wall. But it's also positioned so that when you bonk them off the wall, it's placed perfectly so you can just grab the block and start going again. So whatever is easier for you, I guess. And then here, the timer actually follows you, not Yoshiman. That's how this sprite was coded. I had to like hard code this bar to follow that Fish and Boo's flame the first time. But I mean, honestly, I just would rather have it where you are. It's fine. And then here, there used to be a coin here, but then I think people focused way too much on positioning themselves where the coin was, rather than just the actual action of spitting it. So I changed it to spit, so that way you just know that you have to spit rather than doing it exactly where the coin is, because where you spit out the shell will determine the timing on when you spit out this fall down. So that's why I got rid of the coin here originally, because it's not going to be the same exact spot when you want to spit out the shell. But there was a coin early in the level, actually. I could show it right here. But this one, it actually is consistent where you want to spit. So that's why this coin is here as opposed to it just saying spit. And then the spit's here because you can't even see this on screen. So it is required to convey that information. And then this is probably the hardest trick in the level, because you gotta tongue this springboard too. I thought about nerfing it, but I decided not to. And then this is actually a vanilla springboard with normal hitboxes, and that's because with vanilla springboards, when you're on Yoshiman, you can be very low on the springboard as well. So the regular springboard is just fine, and really have the need to change it to a vanilla one. And likewise, I mean, this was the only other time you really use ice blocks, and then at this point, this Boo will disappear. Even if it doesn't disappear, it's not going to hit anything up there. So. And I actually had to make it so that this sprite, when it's on Yoshiman's tongue, you won't interact with it, because there were times when I would like get off Yoshiman here and I would actually hit the Koopa accidentally and die. So now you shouldn't interact. Actually, I wonder if you could see it here. Sprite slot 8. So is it 1? So 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so this is the sprite disable, or the disabled player interaction timer, and it's permanently set when the sprite is on Yoshiman's tongue. So that way the Koopa will never interact with you, so you can't die to it. So you can see here, it's going to be 1. Yep, now it's 1. And you won't interact with it. So this little small thing I had to do. No, save. There's some more timing things. And then if Yoshiman can actually get stuck in these. But it's just a timing thing. Nothing fancy here really to talk about either. Oh. I thought about putting this one lower just to make it extra hard, because it would be possible, just even more difficult, but ultimately it's to nerf it. And then classic here, classic little coin block. Get the 2 wide, boom. Pretty much every up pipe has a coin block. Well, not everyone, but like most of them have up pipes. So at this point, I think a few people did sniff it out, because this is also, like I said, kind of telling. Well, not telling, but like it's a hint, because I have these in all the spots where there's like a troll potential. Alright, watch this first try Yump though. Alright, watch this first try jump though. Okay, you didn't see that, guys. Nope, we're gonna get this Yump. There you go. Actually, let me see my Yump counter. Because I don't want to go 3 for 3 because I gotta display the text. I think I'm 2 for 2 right now. But good thing we have the little address here that I have that tells me where I saved the Yump numbers to. And that is the address called hold Yumps, number of Yumps. 0F3B. We have 2 Yumps right now. This is my Yump counter. You see if I Yump, which I will again. Now it's 3. But when it's 3 for 3, actually, I might as well show it now because it's kind of relevant. So what we'll do is just really quickly. So thankfully with this Lua script, I can actually, let me just fail this. We're going Sonic speed here. So with this Lua script, I can actually just beat the level by pushing start select. So level B, yay. Level B, yay. Level B. Yay. And if I want to do the secret exit, I do this. Yay. It doesn't matter that the switch isn't there, but if I go in store... Oh shoot, never mind. I have to beat the whole level. Nah, we'll do it later. But that's how I tested pretty fast if the text that shows like since you missed X number of Yumps, the percentages, you know, whatever. That's how I was able to test it pretty fast instead of having to do like constantly new save file, test every Yump. So, but for now, I'll just miss this Yump intentionally, and then we'll show the text. And then there's that level. So that level's not too technical. Pretty simple technical-wise, but these 2 levels, no shot. We'll definitely have to save that for next time. So World 2, surprisingly, going to be a 2-parter. I guess World 1 was also a 2-parter, but that was also like 7 levels. World 3 is... that might be tough for a 1-part or 2. World 3, I might have to bust that out into 2 parts. And then World 4, Special World. We'll see. I do want to break this up into not too long sections. I'm also just need to give myself a yap break. Celica for the Bowser fight? I don't know, actually. I know how it works in terms of the... Maybe not, just because I know how it actually works in depth. The only thing I don't know how it works is each line of code. And in this breakdown, we're not going to talk about individual lines of code. But maybe, I might ask them, I don't know. The problem is I'm also live when they're asleep, so... But... I'll consider it. I'm just not sure. We'll see when we get there. But I think this part will be done for now. I'm glad we got to see a lot more values, dude. Look at all these RAM values. Oh yeah, if you're curious about the global frame counter and game counter. So this always gets a 0 when you start the level. This one does not. Doesn't matter what it is. Oh yeah, I lied. I forgot that in the retry system, it sets this with 0. Well, if we go to S and W. Here you'll see it not get set. See, it doesn't get reset. Well, apparently it starts at 10. That starts at 0. And it still moves even when the game is paused. So, if you're curious about that. But I forgot, with Dram 3, I did do a lot of resetting values to make sure things are consistent. That was one of them. But yeah, I think we'll let me think about it. Is there anything else to talk about that I might have missed? There was one thing, but it's in the previous video. I guess I'll mention it very briefly, and that is in this level. Actually, we have to get to the third room. I didn't really have a door back to each individual room because I don't know, I didn't really feel the need to. But we'll just beat these real quick, you know. But it's basically in the vertical section. Just a quick talk on it. And that is, oh, I paused the timer. Invalid timer. And that is the fact that if you noticed, there's not a lot of vertical sections. So here we get the third room right. So one thing I didn't forget to mention in this room is the reason I don't have a lot of vertical sections is based on how the camera works, because it's different than how the camera moves right and left. Moving it up and down is pretty, I don't want to say jank, it's just hard to design around. There's been patches that have made vertical scrolling a little easier, and there's some kind of workarounds you can do to make the vertical scrolling what you want it to do. But here I wrote other custom sprites that scrolls the camera vertically when I want it to. So in S&W, if you're falling down, the screen won't scroll until you're like down here. So it's like in Mario Maker where you have those blind fall levels. You're not gonna be able to just see what's up if the screen is scrolling when you're down here. You're gonna have like half a second, not even half a second, just look. But here we made it so the screen scrolls down pretty high up, actually. And you'll notice it'll stop at specific spots. I kind of call them like little zones. So it's basically the vertical equivalent of what I'm doing with the camera sprite horizontally, but it's a lot more limited because I have to have the sprite work with code I've written specifically for the level rather than just having the level work with the sprites and no additional codes required. Here, I basically have to look at the position of the level and be like, all right, pause it here. Do whatever you need to do. And then whenever you do what you need to do, resume it again. And that uses a combination of custom sprites and custom blocks. Which I guess kind of is with the camera sprites, because there's sometimes custom blocks. And I also don't have it so you go upwards in this section, because if you want to go upwards, it's kind of based on how the patch was written. I didn't really understand how that patch was written to manipulate the camera vertically. But if I were to have the level go upwards, right, it wouldn't scroll until you were pretty high up on screen. So like when you're here, then it will only start scrolling upwards. So that's why I only have one vertical section minus the auto scroll, because the auto scroll doesn't matter. You don't manipulate the camera, the level does. But that's why this is the only vertical section in the entire game. But the camera stops here. And then you notice, well, first I remember how to do this section. As you finish the section, you can start scrolling the screen again. Yeah, the Luigi one's an auto scroller, so it doesn't matter. But then here, you know, the second time, the screen stops scrolling here, and that you're able to see everything on screen vertically. And it doesn't matter not as much in terms of how much real estate you have, because the width of the game, well, I guess I'm playing on a little squished, more square view, but how tall the screen vertically is it's only a little shorter than how wide the screen is. But in terms of like a 16:9 game like in Mario Maker, it's very important because you have no visibility really up and down compared to how much you can see left and right. So, but thankfully with all these setups, you have all the information you need, and the screen scrolls a lot, or when you're a lot higher up. So that way you can have this, you can kind of perceive what you need to do. Same thing here, the screen won't start scrolling until you get this on off. Now you see the screen scrolls. If I didn't hit the on off, is this low enough? You notice the screen does not scroll. I might be dead anyways. Shoot, bad save state. Also, one thing I had to do here, another thing I forgot to mention is this propeller block has a much wider, or it gets kicked way further in this level, this room specifically. Because if you try to kick it in the boss fight, which I'll demonstrate after, or even now really. So notice how far it goes, right? It goes like 5 or 6 blocks away. So if you do it here, just do another save. Here you go. So here you can kick it and it's only like 3 or 4 blocks away from you. So what you can actually do in this phase is you can just kick it back and forth, which is originally what the intended way to do was, because I was going to have these pillars go back and forth even more, but eventually it was like way too hard, and I just decided to nerf it, where you can just like do this infinitely. You don't even have to move, you can just drop it. So here, right, it goes way further, just to make this obstacle work. And that's why these obstacles are positioned like this, so you spend more time up here so you can see what's going down here. And then the screen stops scrolling, so it doesn't matter at this point. So that's something I forgot to mention, that this is the only vertical section, and designing vertical sections is very tricky if it's not an auto-scroller. Because if it's not an auto-scroller, then you got to figure out how you want that camera to move, and most of the time you have to modify the code to figure out the zones at which the camera will start scrolling. So for here, scrolls down when you're here, scrolls up, or sorry, it scrolls down when you're up here, and it doesn't really scroll up. So there's that room. I think that's probably it for this part. Unless I remember anything for the future part, but yeah, we're making some good moves here. How many levels have we beaten? $16. Probably three or four more parts, maybe 5. We're gonna be yapping for another probably 15 hours ish. But yeah, we're in version 1.32 right now. I still have to make a few more fixes. They're not too big of fixes. There's potentially a camera break in this level that Revolug found, but I have not been able to replicate it, and no one else has ever hit it. So that would be the next fix if I make a 1.33. And I fixed. Ooh. If you go back in the previous file, I don't think I was in this version yet, but I gotta go back to the fight again. We fixed the background for this level. I ended up deciding to put the flames here. So there's flames here now. Look, they animate. For some reason I thought, oh dang it. I get a checkpoint. For some reason, I thought the flames I put in were the correct flames, and they looked funky, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's how they look. But no, these are actually how they're supposed to look. Look at these flames, man. They're so cool. This fight intentionally did not have the flames before, because this is the same background as the final level. So I was like, all right, for the boss here, I will not put the flames, but then I'll just have them on for the final level. But I think people didn't like that I didn't have the flames in the background. And I was like, you know what? Here, have your flames. So I fixed those. And then in this level, I fixed the background, which we'll talk about later. Which apparently was, yeah, it was kind of Omega not correct. which I didn't notice. But those are just some of the small tweaks I did for future versions. I'm hoping there's not a lot more to fix, because I don't want to keep fixing things. It's tough though. I mean, it always happens, even in like AAA games. There's always constant updates. People just find things to break, but eventually there'll be a point where it's like, all right, it's not meaningful to fix this because it doesn't really impact the game. And most people probably have already been done playing this, and most people won't replay it, but I'll fix what I can. So that's where we're at. So who knows what version we'll be on by the time I finish this. Maybe we'll find something to fix as I continue this technical breakdown. I don't know. But yeah, I'll conclude this part. Oh, timer. No, I could have stopped it in 10, 20, 30. Oh well. And then again, the next hack I make, we will probably stream it. I don't know if I'll make YouTube videos on it, but I'll definitely stream it, and it'll probably be just as technical. So what you're seeing now is, I mean, that's what it takes for me to make levels and have it be good by my standards. Paid a lot more attention to detail than I did with Dram 1 and Dram 2. Dram 1 and Dram 2 is still pretty early in my, I say early, but I had a lot less experience than I do now, especially with making and like fixing things. So it's only going to go up here from here in terms of effort too. I imagine my next hack will even have more effort, especially in terms of respawning and spawning things and controlling the camera. So yeah, we'll look forward to the next part, which will be, I don't know, I have no schedule. It'll just be up when it's up. If you see an upload at not 6 AM Eastern, then you know it's this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the technical breakdown.